live, you are live.
Welcome to this evening's Sunset Safari. We are here at the Buffalo's Hook Waterhole. My name is Brent and I have Dangerous Dave the Dish on camera today. And of course we have this hippo who's fighting off the beckoning drought. As you can see, the water is disappearing around him. And this is the second time this year we're going to watch Buffalo's Hook Waterhole dry up. That late rain gave it a last sort of gasp. And as you can see, there's no fish in it at the moment, but there will be some insects. And those insects being around will keep a few species close to the water or even in the water. Now, the hippo being one of them, trying to hide from the harsh African sun, even in winter months. The sun can be quite brutal here in the low veld of South Africa. And we notice as we come out across the mud, there's lots of what look to be animal footprints. And indeed they are, but they are not made by a mammal. Let me get Dave to zoom in. Yeah, lots of footprints. And the big ones, the majority of them, are made by the two Egyptian geese that are on the other bank of the dam. There they are, a pair of Egyptian geese. Of course, those are not the only residents at the Buffalo's Hook Waterhole at the moment. There's another pair of little three-banded plovers, gorgeous little birds, also associated with water. You see them there, Dave? The little guys. And of course, as this waterhole dries, all of these will have to move to another waterhole. And the most interesting of animals that's got to move, and it's going to take the longest, and we might even find them when this really gets dry moving, is the hinged terrapins. So there we go. So as soon as this dries, the closest water to here is to the north, but they might even make the long walk to the Djuma pan and go join all their terrapin brethren there. Now we're going to go see if we can find those Nkahuma lion cubs. Hopefully Mom's around, but if not, we'll keep checking for other things. But speaking of cubs, I think James has got some to show you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this end of the Sunset Safari. Now, I know that you've spent all morning with these cubs, but I was so jealous that I thought I'd come into this area and see if we could find them again. Jeandre, of course, he's on camera today. He's very depressed that he has to spend another 3 hours with these leopard cubs. But Jeandre, do you think you'll cope? He doesn't think he'll cope. We don't care, of course. We're going to try and spend as long as we can with these little cubs and see if Mum doesn't come back to fetch them. My name is James Henry, and in case you're wondering what on earth you're seeing here, you're seeing two 5.5-month-old cubs here, and they are waiting for their mum, who's gone off hunting. She's left them here now for close on 2 days. Now that's not unusual when they get to this age, and they'll start to make very small kills for themselves. And in fact, I think they were seen chasing francolins earlier today. So they are sort of, their cattish instincts are starting to kick in. Now the leopard you're looking at now, as far as I can tell, is the female, whose name is Shongile now, not Charlotte anymore. You can, of course, call her Charlotte Shongile if you want to. I might want to do that. The other one has just gone off behind the trees there, and you can hear the birds alarm calling. There are a few different birds alarm calling. There's at least one rattling cisticola. There's one bird I can't identify, and there, Jeandre, if you look up, the batises have just come in to start shouting at them. I don't know if you can see in the bush just above and to the right. You might be unsighted by the scraggly tree in front. You got them there. Yeah, so those are the chin spot batises, and they're going tip, 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 tip. And it might indicate that Mum's on her way back, but I don't know. She apparently went off to the south of the reserve and is hunting over there. Now, we're as live as Brent is, so please ask us questions. Hashtag Safari Live questions at WildEarthTV if you'd like to ask us anything about what we're seeing here today. That is not Charlotte. Shongila, sorry. Or is it? Yes, it is. It is. Anyway, they're very sweet little cubbies here, and I think we're going to spend as long as we can, even if they are relatively flat cat, as they say, because we don't know when Mum's going to come back, and we also, of course, don't know how long we're going to have to spend with them. She may well kill south of the reserve today, and then she'll take them down to the south, and that will be that for the next little while. And Lisa, I agree with you. You say you can't believe how big they're getting. They are getting quite big. They're about the size now, as I look there, of a, well, what kind of dog breed would you say, Gendre? Sort of medium-sized dog, if you like. They're smaller than a Labrador and an Alsatian, but they are much larger than a poodle. And indeed they would swallow that lamentable breed, the Pekingese, with great ease. And you can just see them looking up at the birds, thinking, "Go away and shut up." Oh, where's the other one gone? Just off behind there. And there are no roads back there, and I'm not going to go crushing in to see if we can see them from the other side, simply because Mum is not here, and therefore we want them to have as much sound and smell available to them in case some other predator comes knocking along here. Look, that's too sweet. Isn't that great? Staring up at the birds, thinking, "How I'd like to swallow you." And the alarm calling from those birds is not that vociferous. It can be a lot more strident when they see an adult. In the top of a weeping boerbean tree, and the squirrel actually underneath her, but giving a very sort of half-hearted call. That is just wonderful to see. Oh yes, tired and licking lips. Perfect little cat. Won't be so little for very long. I'm just sort of waking up. They've been sleeping here for most of the day. You can see yawning quite heavily, and you can see, I don't know how many of you were on drive with us this morning, but you could see definitely the size of the teeth on those tiny, tiny little lion cubs that we saw, just erupting out of the gums, and compared with the 6-month-old or 5.5-month-old teeth on this leopard, well, there's really no comparison. They've already started to get their adult teeth, as far as I'm aware. Born on the 2nd of February this year. Thinking about getting up. Always the ears go back first. Oh, big stretch. Just like a house cat, totally instinctual, looking quite skinny. I think I'm talking nonsense. Aaron in Florida, you want to know when the absolute earliest time is that these cubs will be left to fend for themselves. The earliest on record in this area for a leopard going independent is 8 months. Now, I mean, it's almost impossible to conceive of these things going independent in the next sort of 3 months or so. It's not impossible, though. The male won't, definitely not. The female, well, 8 months, that was a female. The males tend to be a bit like human beings. They like to stay home with the comforts of mother's cooking and someone else making their beds for them. until they're a little bit older. But 8 months is about the youngest. But they've been left, they've been left like this for 2 days at a time regularly since they were born, because their mother must kill. She must kill to feed them. We'll just sit here for a little bit, and then we might move a little closer to the drainage and see if we can't get view of the other one as well. You can see how beautifully hidden they are. Yesterday, yesterday they were about sort of 50 meters from each other. Hello Cindy in Tennessee, you want to know the spot patterns of these two leopards? Well, the male is 3-3 and the female is 4-3, and I'm just a little bit suspicious that this isn't actually the male. I couldn't see the spot pattern exactly on his right, our left-hand side, but their eyes looked very Georgish, at least Hosanna-ish, the less brown ones. Jean-Marie, let me move very slightly over that way and see if you can't get a slightly better picture. So 3-3 and 4-3. Their mother is 3-4, so that's 3 spots on her right and 4 on her left. Their father, if he is Tingana, and I think he probably is, how's that, Jandri? Any good? Their father is 5-5. You see him there? Forward, back. Is that fine? And oh dear. There we go. Andre soup. No, that is her. Can you see that single spot on the top there? That indicates that it's her. Well, she's really hiding that part of her face if it is her. I think it is. There we go. I'm pretty sure that's the female. Beautifully hidden there. I'm not sure where the male's gone. He may have gone off to climb a tree. He may have gone off to find some more shade. X-Ranger, you want to know if there's a penance any time that I call these leopards George and Charlotte. Now, for those of you who perhaps don't know, those are the names I gave them before they were given their official names yesterday, and I'm struggling to come to terms with the new names. I became quite fond of George and Charlotte, and you want to know if there's a penance, X-Ranger, every time I call them George and Charlotte. No, there isn't. No. Thankfully not, because it's going to be difficult. I said last night that we should probably give them 2 names. You know, it could be George Hosanna and Charlotte Shongile, and I thought that was quite a good idea. Brent Leo Smith's brain exploded in his head when I suggested that to him. And when I suggested calling Karula Elizabeth, he dropped dead. We had to bury him outside the camp. Anyway, that's the story there. What I want to do is just reverse slightly back and see if we can't get a view of what I think is the male. It's suddenly got quite a lot warmer after the wind here, hasn't it, Jandri? It's supposed to be about 22 degrees Celsius. It's about 74 Fahrenheit, if I'm not completely wrong. 71 Fahrenheit, sorry. 72? No, I've got it wrong. 72. Thank you, Kirsten. I need to get shirty. How's that? Is that right? Oh, this camera is just perfect for this, of course. Yet again, the right side of her face is hidden. Can you see it? No. So you can see the 3 spots there. And Brent Leo Smith has got some very, very fine news for you. So go across and see from him.
How exciting! This is my first sight of the tiny little Nkuhuma cubs. Unfortunately, Mom is not here, so we're not going to stay very long. But just look at that. So there we go. Can barely crawl. Now, as the day has gone on, the sun has changed. Oh, look at growling at its sibling. The sun has moved, so they're going to crawl deeper into the shade. It's going to get hot there. These guys are tiny. So their eyes only open at about 12 days. So these guys aren't much older than that. Here you go, trying to snuggle up. Get out of the sun. So it's not unusual for Mom to leave them alone for a couple of days. Normally at this age, not more than 2 days. And I think she was here yesterday. When James checked this morning, she wasn't. And now I've checked this afternoon, she wasn't. So as I said, we're not going to stay much longer. And then I'm going to zone the sighting. So we're not going to let anyone in here without Mom here. But one vehicle comes to check every afternoon. So let's look at that. Isn't that just the cutest thing you've ever seen? Oh, they are gorgeous. But let's leave the little cuteness. We don't, as I said, we don't want to bring any undue attention to them when Mom's not here. This is a really, really precarious time for a lion cub. A passing mongoose could even manhandle them. So we're going to go back to James and the leopard cubs, and we're going to leave the little Nkuhumas to wait for their mom to return.
Right, well, we've spotted the other one, but not for you just yet, everyone. He's just the other side. And so we'll just wait for him to come back. He's... yeah, I can't get both of them in shot for you, I'm afraid. I say I mean I can't help Gendre to get them both in shot for you. If I was on camera, all you'd have is a blurry kind of rendition of brown bush. You know, I can just see him with the binoculars. I can see his spots the other side of the termite mound. As they get a little bit more active and then go to sleep again. I'm fascinated to know where their mother is. You see, it's pointless her returning unless she's killed, because they're pretty good at getting out of the way of predators, and they don't suckle anymore, so she can't actually help them unless she kills something. So I suspect she will stay away from them for as long as it takes for her to kill. If she's in the vicinity hunting, well then she might pop past, but otherwise I think she's going to stay away. And at the moment, don't look like she's coming close. And Sandra, you want to know how long it is between litters. Sandra, it really does depend on when they go independent. So, for example, if these guys go independent, if the male goes independent, say at 18 months to 2 years, she'll come into estrus probably a few months after that. Let's say, perish the thought that George, Hosanna met that really wasn't intentional. Let's say the male meets his end rather early and the female goes independent at 8 months. She'll come into estrus sort of 3 months after that. So it really does depend when they kind of leave home as to when she will come into estrus again. I'm going to sneak slightly forward, Jean-Marie, and I'll just get you a picture of the other one. That should actually do it. So you can see the gap between the two there, between the two termite mound peaks, straight through there. And you see what I mean? So that those two peaks on the termite mound, you see that little saddle?
Yes.
Straight through the saddle. You got him.
Roll forward.
Are we moving? We are. Foxhat, while we move stealthily forward, you say...
Yeah.
You say you can see a drinking game coming on here where I have to have some apple juice every time I say George and Charlotte.
You should buy me an apple juice.
You don't drink apple juice, Andre. You only drink grape juice.
Right, grape juice then.
Foxhat, I disagree with you. I think it would be a very poor drinking game, largely because, well, I think I'd be ill if I drank that much apple juice. And I don't think it's going to take me a long time to get used to Hosanna and Shongile versus George and Charlotte. So even some of the crew are struggling with it, you know. It's not only me. I better turn up the game drive radio. I think there's some people getting mobile now. Look at that. What an afternoon, and just so quiet, very peacefully warm, gentle breeze from the southeast. There's a grey go-away bird calling in the background. Genre, should we go back to the other one? Are you happy with this one?
Yeah,
And we'll go back 1 meter to the other one. We might leave them just now, everybody, but I'm quite happy to just spend a bit longer here. Say when? Oh, Andre, it's because you're getting old. You're getting old. She's still there. Stations, these 2 young leopards are still on site. The southern side of the drainage line, visible from the road. Probably 1 out of 5.
slightly forward, James.
Slightly forward. Yes, there we are.
Right, stop.
Sleeping leopard. And you can see them starting to clean themselves fastidiously, like all cats do. And we get asked a lot about, can predators or can their prey smell them when they're hunting? Are they able to kind of sneak through the bush, and do they use the wind? I think one of the major reasons that cats clean themselves as fastidiously as they do is to try and avoid their prey smelling them when they're on the hunt. And it is my postulation that they actually don't smell a great deal, and that the wind quite possibly doesn't play much of a role when they're hunting. But I'm not sure if that is true. Lisa, you you say you wonder if all these cubs have got puppy breath. Genre, do you know what puppy breath is?
It smells like you.
It smells like me, does it? Okay, well then, I hope they don't have puppy breath at all, no. I'm not really sure what you mean, but I imagine they probably do, until they started eating meat. Now their breath will be fairly rancid, I imagine. Bits and pieces of rotting flesh in between their little carnassial teeth. So they probably did when they were suckling. But now that they're not suckling and they are purely carnivorous, I suspect that their puppy breath has disappeared. I think we're going to sit with them for another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll press on and see what else we can find. Maybe we'll come across their mum, and then we'll come back here a little bit later. You see, I don't know if you can hear, but the birds have now stopped alarm calling at them. No more are the cisticulars in a panic. They've left. The batises have left. Little waxbills have left. And that's because they've realized that these 2 sleeping little cubbies pose them no threat whatsoever. Just wonderful. And thank you very much, all of you, for your screenshots of these cubs. Wonderful that you can take better photographs than I can from where you're sitting. Despite the fact that I'm so close to them, I'm still unable to take a decent photograph today. They are, to be fair to me, quite far away from us, and right at the end of this very long lens. Hello, Desiree in Indiana, sorry, not India. Kirsten, how do you manage that? You want to know the spelling of the cubs' names? The spelling of the male's name is George, and the spelling of the female's name is Charlotte, although we did have a viewer suggesting very cleverly that we should spell the female's name Xarlotte, which of course would give it a kind of Shangaan flavour, Charlotte. I am of course being utterly facetious. The names are spelled, Shongile is spelled Xongile, and the male, or the male's name, Small Chief, or Small King, or Prince, is Hosana. Alright, let's go across to Brent and find out what he has to show you. Some antelope and some equids.
And of course, as we were linking, the zebra decided to maneuver itself. And there we go. Let's just go back. So we've got a group of male impala and what looks to be a lone male zebra. Now, it's not uncommon for these young stallions to spend a time with other animals. Is he going to cross behind us? Of course he is. Now, safety in numbers. Oh, not the most relaxed young zebra, that one. Let's see if he's a bit more relaxed when he's got lots of impala friends around. There he is. So these young stallions will often buddy up with a group of impala or kudu. Now they've been pushed out of their native homes. Okay, we're going back the other way now, mister. Trying to stick with certain of the impala friends. Shame, he's not the most relaxed zebra, so we're not going to stress him out too much. But now he's panicked, so now the impalas are running. They're not sure why they're running, but if you are a prey species, it pays to be cautious. Now everyone's on high alert thanks to that young male zebra. Now we're going to continue on. We're on the northern edge of our traverse area at the moment. I'm going to head towards Gallagher Shortcut. I want to have a quick look at the Gallagher Shortcut hyena den. I think that was the last one that was active. We're going to go see if there's any sign of activity there. I've checked the Mvubu Road. I've checked the Aubrey's Road den, so Gallagher is the last one to check. It's not impossible. There is another den I know about, but it's right in the center of those little river systems and really basically impossible to get there with a car. So they might just be in the center there. I've got a feeling they're a bit further to the west. We might have a quick squeeze around that area as well. Hi, Ashley, who's in England. Ashley is asking me to describe how the different animal species are affected by this terrible drought. And a terrible drought it is, Ashley, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Everything in nature has its time and place, including drought. Now, we as humans seem to think this is a very big, sort of huge catastrophe, but Africa and the rest, or the world, has seen numerous droughts far worse than this in its history. Now, your herbivores, so your grass and leaf eaters, are going to have a bit of a tough time of it. But the one thing that happens when the weaker ones and the young ones start dying, the ones that are left generally hold the strongest genetic code possible. So the most immune to disease, the most hardy, the most resilient, and that is always good to start the next breeding stock. A really good example of this is buffalo. The last major drought like this was in 92-93 in the Kruger, and the Kruger went from around 30,000 buffalo to around 10,000 buffalo. And that really strong genetic stock of 10,000 buffalo has bounced back since 93 to 50,000 buffalo. So there's probably going to be a couple or 10, 20,000 buffalo that die, but in the total, the meta population will be better off after it. So it is quite a sad thing to see animals struggling, but it isn't always the worst thing. But we can discuss a bit more about the drought. Let's go back to James and those bundles of joy.
Everybody, Jean-Andre says he desperately wants screenshots of this. This is a very, very cute shot indeed. Very sweet with the little paws on top of the termite mound there. The other one, I can just see a couple of spots breathing heavily, fast asleep again. That is very, very sweet. I, of course, am not allowed to move now. Because if I do, because we're at right at the end of the lens. Oh, this is interesting. I thought maybe she was hearing the chuffing sound of Karula. And when Karula comes into the area, she'll go choo, 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 to call them. Endlessly entertained is this leopard cub by, oh, this is too sweet for words, by all the things going on around here. Birds calling, light changing, leaves rustling in the wind, termite mound to scratch yourself on, bit of housekeeping, checking that her brother isn't walking off somewhere, getting himself into trouble. And Kirsten is sort of confirming what I've been suspecting, that this might be the male. And I've just been looking at the spot patterns, but the eyes are definitely those of the males. But watch as he lifts his tail. Oh, missed it. I thought I could identify them so easily, and now it appears that I might be wrong. I might have to beat myself to death. Now Kirsten says she's sure it's the male. Kirsten, you best not be wrong. I need to see the other one. The other one definitely seems to have browner eyes, so quite possibly this is the male. Oh, sitting up. You see that, Jean-Andre? I'm about to get you a world-winning photograph. There you are. Say thank you.
Yeah, further, please.
Further?
Yeah,
why?
I've got a stick chopping.
You still got a stick chopping your head off. There we go. Look, that is too sweet. And thank you to all of you for taking Jean-Andre his screenshots. He's very pleased, aren't you, Jean-Andre?
Quite so.
Most grateful. I'm also going to take a shot, Jean-Andre, with my camera. It's going to be an epic shot. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, I got her bottom. Or his bottom, whichever it is. Did you see something under the tail there? He's stalking something.
It's the eyes.
It is the eyes, rather, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then I may have the spot pattern slightly wrong as well. He might also be 4-3. Look at him, tensing. Oh, he's tensing on because his sister has got up. He's stalking her. There she comes. You see her there, Andre? There we are.
Yeah. It's the female.
Maybe he's... oh, he's gone off to have a bit of a stretch there. And lying down behind the termite mound. I'm trying to think if we'll get a better view. Let me go back a little. Rocky Knight, nice one from you about naming, and I mean, of course, this is a debate you'll have for years to come, but why do we give these leopards names, not all lions? Rocky Knight, it's simply, Jean-Henri, I can't see whether you've got a shot or not.
I don't really. But let's try behind this converter. Yeah.
You got one. Rocky Knight, the reason is that we see the leopards, we do give the lions sort of names, but we don't see them quite as frequently. Their territories are much larger, and so we don't quite have the same relationship with them that we do with the leopards. The leopards are also solitary, which means they're slightly easier to identify. Their markings are much more distinct than lions' markings, for example. And that's basically why. But I mean, the new leopard, the lion cubs, I've named Jerry, Louise, and Kirsty, because I think there's one male and two females. That's the larger Nkuhuma cubs. The three little ones that you've just seen with Brent now, I don't know what they are, but we will probably not name them. Well, that's definitely the female. She's 3. I've got the spot patterns completely wrong. Hang on a second. There's an alarm calling bird. Maybe Mum's coming back. Every time I hear a really strident alarm call, I think maybe Mum is returning. And once lions of course become adults, then it becomes very difficult to identify individuals. You can do it from the individual whisker spots, but then you need a real proper picture of them. X-Ranger, a nice question from you. You say, is it part of having, or is it one of the advantages of having more than one youngster, that they're then able to sort of practice on each other and practice stalking? Yes, I imagine it probably is. These guys definitely don't do it as much as lions. They do it a bit, but yeah, I'm sure it is. But that's not to say that a single leopard isn't just as
Can we roll slightly forward?
yeah, that's not to say that a single leopard isn't slightly sorry about that, everyone. It's not to say that a single leopard cub, it doesn't develop those same skills, because of course they spend quite a lot of time playing with their mothers and stalking their mothers. Now I've got this really arse-about face here. That looks 3-3 to me. He is now disappearing through the bushes. And I can hear way, way, way in the distance, I can hear a kudu alarm calling. Yeah, there's something calling there. Jack, you want to know why their muscles twitch? Jack, it's because they don't have hands to slap the flies off them. It's simply so that they can shake the skin and get the flies and other parasites off them. That's the only reason. So I don't know if you heard there, but way in the background I could hear. They've just looked up, Chandra, at my kudu call. Yeah, still the kudu are calling in the distance. Sounds like in the Mulwati drainage line. So maybe Karula is on her way back. I'm very distressed by my lack of remembering what spot patterns of what. Hello, Fluff the Rosy Kitty. You're obviously a new viewer and you say, is this a cheetah? Fluff, this is no cheetah. This is a leopard. This is the prince of cats, the ultimate spotted cat. And it is the African leopard. I mean, they are very, very sort of ubiquitous around the world, actually. They extend all the way into Asia. But this is the African leopard, and they differ from cheetahs in many ways. And if you saw a cheetah next to a leopard, you wouldn't confuse them for a second. The cheetah, the most obvious sign from what we've seen here of a cheetah would be those very clear black tear marks going down the side of the face. And then on the body, of course, these little leopards have got what we call rosettes, which are little arrangements or circles of spots with sort of a darker yellow color in the middle, where a cheetah is just sort of the uniform yellow with plain spots, just like the spots that are on the leopard's head. So that's what a cheetah looks like. Cubs also of cheetahs look a little bit like, there comes the other one. Cheetah cubs, there we go, playing with each other a little bit. Cheetah cubs have got a white mantle, so a big white sort of flash of fur that goes all the way down the back. So they don't look nothing like leopard cubs. You even got a shot there, Gendre. Yes, it's all right. But Fluff, nice to have you with us, and I hope that you stay with us for a long time. What we're doing here is just waiting to see if the mother doesn't arrive back again and take them off to a kill. Because she's away hunting, and I suspect quite strongly that she's going to come over sometime this afternoon and take them off to her latest success. Alice, what a great question. Gendre, I'm going to go back slightly, see if you don't get a better shot. Why don't you leave the camera on them and then we can see.
I'll leave it. Go further.
There we go. No.
Well,
Then we go forward. There you go. Alice, you're in Ohio and you say, why do we name the leopards if they don't care? Well, Alice, you're absolutely right. They couldn't give a flying continental, whether we call them George, Hosanna, Beeblebrox, like George Adams might have called them, or Douglas Adams, sorry. They really couldn't care less. We name them, I suspect, because we like to anthropomorphize, we like to give them human characteristics, and it helps us to identify them. I think that's the emotional reason behind naming them. And, you know, we spend so much time with them that we develop this kind of relationship with these cats, and calling them Leopard Cub 1 and Leopard Cub 2, which would be the kind of scientific way of doing it, you know, they'd be they'd be named after the area that they're in. Well, it just wouldn't be very personal at all. So that's why there's no other reason other than the human need to have some kind of emotional connection with them. Bernie, make your way. Yeah, about a 2 out of 5 visual at the moment. So that's, just for those of you who are new viewers, is the Game Drive channel, and I'm just helping a few others come into the sighting. While they are lying behind that termite mound very unkindly, let's head across to Brent and see where he is.
Alas, I've checked the Gallagher shortcut hyena den. Doesn't look like it's been active for a while. So since I've been back, I've been so busy I haven't actually got to check a few areas as well as I would like. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm heading up to the western corner of Djuma, and around these guarri thickets there's a little river system that sometimes Shadow likes to utilize, and also Mr. Tingana. So definitely worth a little squiz. I feel like I have been neglecting the western areas, so we'll come have a look around here. Now I wonder, I haven't seen the side-striped jackal since I've been back either. Keep checking. Now, and this morning we found some incredible serval tracks, and Roger was wondering, did we find it? Unfortunately not, Roger. It walked into some very hard ground and we lost the tracks. But we know it's in that area, so definitely a spot worth checking after dark with the spotlight. Oh, sun's coming out from behind a cloud. Now the wonderful thing is you actually never know what might pop out, and this area up here, right on the corner with the Manyeleti boundary, Imvula might pop out, Shiluva might pop out, so lots of different creatures, and it seems to be a sort of boundary zone between a few of the animals. Always check these the bigger trees, and especially the ones that have got shade at this time of the year. You know, there might be a leopard taking advantage of that. So carry on with Ashley's theme about drought. Nevin's asking, are leopards less likely to hide their kills in trees because of the drought, because they provide less cover? Not at all, Nevin. The main reason they put their kills up in those trees is to escape hyenas mostly, and that's the track I saw walking down the path here. There's a hyena track. There we go. Now, I wonder if there's a den down there. I don't think so. I've walked this block extensively. There's no real den sites in it. But Nevin, they mostly put their kills up in the tree to avoid lions and hyenas, and if there's a lack of foliage, it's not the biggest train smash. Now, Ashley asked how it would affect the different animals, and we only really discussed how it was going to affect the herbivores, and there could be a die-off of certain species. Warthog are often the first to go, followed quite closely by kudu, wildebeest, zebra, and buffalo. But it has the exact opposite effect on the predators. It is a time of plenty for lions, hyenas, leopards, wild dogs, cheetah, because the stuff they're trying to catch that is normally incredibly athletic and escapes very, very often, is now not as athletic and is suffering a little bit from lack of quality food, so it makes it a bit easier for the predators to catch them. Yeah, there seems to be so many tracks here. I think it was a hyena again, but always pays to double check. Where was that track? Yep, hyena. Now you'll find hyena tracks on most roads in the Sabi Sands. They're capable of wandering great distance in search of food in the evenings. Just want to check all the way, almost to the gate. There's quite a big thoroughfare for animals along this little corner here. Oh yeah, it got away. One of the few butterflies we're going to see at this time of year was a beautiful big citrus swallowtail. So let's have a look. Nkumas are in the north, and there are their tracks. So this is where the Nkuma Pride crossed early this morning into Buffalo's Hook. And someone circled the tracks. So while we continue on, let's go back to James and those glorious little leopard cubs.
They've gone, everybody. Look, they've gone. They've run away. They aren't there anymore. Ha 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 ha. They are here. Sorry. That's really ridiculous. But there they are. They're lying very comfortably with each other, using each other for warmth. You can see the sun has disappeared behind another cloud. And every time it does that today, that very thick fur that they have on their bodies becomes doubly important, because it really has been, as soon as the sun goes, it's quite cool. And that's, I'm afraid, the best view we're going to have of them at the moment. I know I said I was going to just hang around here 10 minutes. I think just because of those kudu alarm calling, as I was saying to Jean-Andre, that could have been a snake, it could have been Tingana, it could have been a lioness, it could have been anything that made those kudu or nyala alarm call a little way away from us. But what I'm going to do is just stay here regardless, because it could have been Karula not too far from here, and she might be making her way back here. So I think it is going to be worthwhile sitting here. I'm sure there aren't too many of you that mind sitting with leopard cubs, correct? Good. And Rika, you're in Johannesburg. You say, which one of the cubs will most likely... Sorry, excuse me. Rita, you say which one of the cubs will most likely start hunting first? Rita, probably the female, because she'll become a lot more independent before him, and the males are just, they're like human males, they just develop a little bit more slowly, as do elephant males, in fact. Okay, we're just going to move slightly back so that I can give Bernie a look. Have you got a shot there, Jean-Andre? How's that? There you go. Good morning. Good afternoon, sorry, yes. So, 1 out of 5 view of 2 of them, just on that little termite mound there, under the sticks. You've got no shot there, Jean-Andre? Why did you tell me to stop, you heinous individual?
It was up and now it's down.
Hey? We could just see.
Go forward.
Not sufficiently to call it a... Oh, can you see? Just wait, Jean-Andre. Jean-Andre is full of instructions, everyone. Sometimes we call that something else, but not live on air. Right, there you are. That's all we got, I'm afraid. Your passenger's looking in completely the wrong direction. Trying to help Bernie see them here. All you can see are some spots underneath. Can you see them there? Okay. There we go, they can see them, everyone. There we are. Yeah, not moving at all. In the background, one very cross black-headed oriole goes, which reminds me of Brent Leo Smith with his cross. So let's go across to him and see what he's got.
We have a beautiful sky with a grey go-away bird flying through the middle of it and landing just below with what we want to show you. Now, there's a vervet monkey atop that knobthorn. Now, you'll probably find the rest of the troop are foraging on the ground below, and that monkey's job is to be the sentinel, looking out for predators. So if it spots a leopard or a hawk eagle, it'll immediately give an alarm call, sending the other monkeys scurrying for high ground or scurrying for cover if it's a bird. And of course the monkeys will have different alarm calls for the different predators. So that's the only one we can see, but I'm quite certain on the ground around here is the rest of the troop, or in the original colonial English, the collective noun for monkeys. There's a shrewdness of monkeys, and of course there's a proof why. Being very shrewd, keeping someone on look for predators. Now, you can hear some little birds. I'm just going to go backwards slightly. See if I can spot them. But they are proving to be a little bit difficult. Now, there's one bird I really want to show you guys, and they keep escaping, and that's what it sounded like, but they sound like they're a bit far off. And it's a little green-winged petilia, tiny little finch-like bird, but beautifully colored, oranges, reds and greens. I will keep my eye out for them. So we're checking very slowly down our western boundary. Now there's some water not far from here, so this is a very active thoroughfare zone for lots of animals. I was also hoping we might bump into some ellies around here. So far, only lots and lots of hyena tracks. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous winter's evening. Now, HK is wondering if the older Nkahuma cubs are now moving around with the pride. Indeed, HK, they are. Sorry, I just want to check here. This is... they are. So, they get to about 8 weeks old, they start moving around with the pride. The mothers, when they are hunting, will still leave them, but it'll be much closer distances that they'll return to feed them, and then if they catch something, actually take them to the carcass. Now, this is an area where we found shadow quite a lot. It's a very difficult area to follow animals through, so often we just catch glimpses of her crossing the road. But I haven't seen her for a couple of days now, and I haven't heard of anyone seeing her, so I thought it might be worth checking our western edge. While we continue our search of the western edge of Djuma, and we might take a dabble into Arathusa a little later. Let's go see how James's afternoon is going with those two gorgeous little cubs.
What's he said so far, genre? Delectable, gorgeous, and delicious, I think, are the adjectives he's used. Very good that he's used 3 adjectives. Be interesting to see how much he can keep going with. Well done, Brent. They haven't moved 1 jot since you were last here, everybody. So I think we're going to do a little circle about the place and see if we can't spot Mum coming this way, because the sun on my face and the watching of sleeping cats is going to make me drop off fairly soon. And I think were Genre to turn the camera to me and find me like this, it just wouldn't make great TV, I don't think. So let's go and see what else we can find, and we'll do sort of a big loop and we'll come back around here. Bernie, we're going to leave them with you. Yes. No. No, they're totally weaned. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Rain, I'm going to answer your question as we move, because Bernie's just asked me a very good question. He said, do they, or would she have come back to feed them? And the answer is no, because they've weaned. And as I said to you earlier, I think she's probably going to leave them until she's killed. There's no point in her coming back unless she's killed some meat. See you later, everybody. Good luck. If they move, will you let us know, please? Thank you. So, Rain, you say we're taught not to get too attached to the wild. There's a kudu just up ahead here. Could have been the ones that were shouting earlier. And surely the naming of these animals attaches us to them. And I'm going to ask Kirsten just to read it again, but that's the general gist of what you said. Okay, so yes, so isn't naming the animals taking away from the wild? Here the kudu, they're moving towards those cubs. It's unlikely that the cubs will kill them. In fact, it's impossible. And Rain, yes, I mean, this is one of the things that, one of the reasons that if you go to a place like Londolozi or Singita, they don't name the animals sort of like we do here. They don't call them Karula and George and Charlotte and Shrungila and all those sorts of names. They call them after the area in which they live. So they'll call the 3-4 female after her spot pattern. They would call the Vomba female. They always kind of tack on a female or young young female, so that it's not a name like George or Charlotte or Billy or Shrungila. Here it's quite a large herd of kudu, this. And the reason for that is that when they drive their guests around, they want their guests to have a feeling that the wilderness is wild and that they're not tame, and that they feel that names like we give them up here in the north absolutely do take away the wildness of it. I used to be of that school of thought. That's probably simply because I used to work in a place where that's how they did it. I'm not so sure anymore, Rain. We all know that they're wild animals. I don't think it's particularly dangerous, and it's all very well saying, well, this is the 3-4 female, but if you go and sit in a rangers meeting and they start talking about the leopards, they'll just say, well, 3-4 or Vomba or Sunset Bend, and they refer to them in exactly the same way as whether you call them Karula or anything else. So unless you're naming them by numbers and trying to stay emotionally detached from it, and you can if you're an automaton or perhaps a hardcore scientist, which very few of us are, the naming I don't think really removes the wilderness. And mostly, as I was saying today, actually, I was chatting about this earlier, I think the anthropomorphizing of them, the fact that we do call them other things, is actually quite a positive thing, because it attaches people to the wild animals. And attaching people to wild animals, making them emotionally invested in wild animals and creatures and all of the aspects of the wilderness that we have here, I think that really is a good thing, because it means that the more attached people are to these areas and the animals, the greater the chance that they will become involved in conservation is, and that can only be a positive thing. So while, yes, hardcore scientists are going to tell you that it's a really bad idea, how can you name these things, you're removing them from the wild, you're making them sound domesticated, I say piffle to them, because I piffle to my own self when I was a younger man, and that's simply because I don't really care. They don't care, and it makes a big difference to some people, and if it attaches them to the wild and makes them enthusiastic about the wilderness, let's call them what we want to call them. Right, let us get around the corner now. Oh, now Brent, we've had the smaller versions of the kudus here. Brent apparently has the biggest kudu in the world with him.
Now here we are with a massive male kudu, and he's busy giving that quarry busher a good rubbing. Now he could be doing that to make his horns look impressive. Quarry bushes often have a little bit of red resin. I'm just going to try and move forward slightly. But this is a very, very big adult kudu. Incredibly wide horns. Hello, big boy. So he doesn't look like he's showing any signs of the drought taking effect just yet. And that's probably because he is in his prime. And when it comes time to mating with massive rapiers like he's got, he's probably one of the dominant kudu bulls in this area. Now kudus don't hold set territory like a lot of other antelope and other animals. They only really compete when the females are in estrus. So when the females aren't, it's not uncommon to find groups of 5 to 10 of these big bulls in each other's company. He is massive. Wow, they are just incredibly graceful animals, and they belong to my sort of family, a favorite family of antelope, the Traphalagids. It's the spiral-horned antelope, and the kudu is actually got quite an interesting Latin name, which refers to the shape of its horns. So it refers to the corkscrew, not corkscrew, the corkscrew shape of that kudu's horns. And I wonder if anyone out there knows what the word is, or what a kudu's Latin name is. If you know what a kudu's Latin name is, please let me know. There's some confused tourists thinking we had seen something other than a kudu, but they looked very confused. I think they're in a rental car, and as you can hear, they definitely don't know how to drive on the dirt road. The spinning of the wheels and the corrugations. But I'm sure they're about to go have a wonderful safari somewhere. But that's what I was saying. If you know what the Latin name of a greater kudu is, and you know what that second part of the Latin name means, and I did give you a hint about the corkscrews, but if you know where those words come from, let me know. Questions at WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Okay, let's try and get another view of this big boy. Now that our confused visitors have passed. So Mike's wondering if it's true that a kudu's horns are merely a sign of genetic strength and are not used for fighting. Mike, that is completely untrue. Of course, they are a sign of genetic strength, but they are very much used for fighting. How's that, Dave? So actually, there's quite a few recorded cases where you find kudu that have died because those corkscrew horns have got interlocked while they're fighting. So those horns are very important when it comes to fighting for females. There we go. This is beautiful. You can see the sun actually catching those horns, and you can see not only are big horns needed to be the dominant kudu, but it helps to be a bit taller, so you can feed a little bit higher than the other kudus, and in times of drought that little bit of extra height would be very important. And he doesn't mind the passing traffic you're hearing. He's going to carry on munching away. Now, as it gets cooler, he's probably going to move up to the crests and find a nice place to lay low for the evening and lie down and chew the cud, ruminate. Well done, Johan and Raisa. Traphelagus strepsorisos. Now, if we go to the second part, strepho is the Greek word for twist. So strephus is twisting, and keras is Greek for horn. So keratin, that's what the horn is made out of. So it is the twisted horn antelope. Now, the first part of the word, Tragelaphus, comes from tragos, which is also Greek, and it stands for he-goat. And elephus stands for deer. So it's a he-goat deer twisting horn. That's quite a strange name if we break it down. Hello, Mr. He-goat deer twisting horn. Now, all the he-goat deers have twisted horns or curved horns. So the other members of the family that we get here in the Sabi Sands are bushbuck, nyala, and at the very outside possibility, an eland. Now, he's a big boy, but he would still be an easy target for a pride of lions, and Roger was wondering that. Do lions prey on kudu? Indeed they do. Oh, I'm just going to get a quick shot of those horns. It is just beautiful, that backlight filtering through. This is a magnificent specimen. Well, it looks like he's going to wander off deeper into the block. We're going to keep checking our western edge of traverse, and who knows what might turn up. What have we got there, actually, before we go anywhere? Oh no, it's a very big hyena footprint. It's so big I thought it might be a lioness. So I keep checking this western area. Let's go back to James so he can update you on what he's doing.
Well, I'm driving around, everybody. That's what I'm doing, and I'm hoping to see some tracks of Karula. And this is because we had monkeys alarm calling in this area. We didn't hear them, but Bernie, who you saw at the sighting, he's still waiting there with the cubs, and he said he thought he heard monkeys alarming around about here. So we're going to have a look around about here and see if we don't find any evidence of Mama Leopard, Elizabeth. Sorry, Karula, wondering what I'm saying. That's just for Brent's benefit. And if we his brain will explode. And we might be lucky. I don't know. I mean, it could be alarming at anything. Let's just see. There's a nice road down here called Ingwe Alley. And we'll see if Ingwe Alley has got anything else on it. And Sharon, you asked the question if given Karula's age, she's 12 now, will this be her last litter? I think she's probably got another one in her. I'm assuming these ones go to independence, so 18 months from now, of course, Georgie boy, at least Hosanna, should go independent. Maybe a year from, well, a minimum of a year from now he'll go independent. So that would put her at 13 and a bit. She'll come into estrus fairly soon after that, have the cubs 3 months after that. 2 years later she'll be 15, and it's unlikely that she'll have another litter. So I think she's got at least another one in her. She might be very lucky and have another 2, but I think probably 1 if these chaps make it to independence. And of course they're by no means out of the woods. They certainly are out of the most vulnerable stage of their lives, but there's so many dangers out here. And I mean, those little lion cubs that we've been seeing, which are that big, anything could go up the drainage line there. I mean, a duiker could go up the drainage line there and do some serious damage to them. So, you know, the risks for little cats out here are enormous. They're so totally altricial, helpless completely, and yeah, so these chaps could be taken out. We hope that they won't be. Certainly it's unlikely given the skill of their mother, A, and B, their age. But who knows? And then she'd come into estrus almost straight away, in the same way that Shadow did once Sindile went into rehab. Amazing how that leopard has become completely independent on his own without any coaching. And you know, there is quite a lot of debate as to how much the mother leopards teach their youngsters. And old Sindile, you know, before he went into rehab, aged just about a year old, he was living a lot on his own. I think he was catching and killing quite a lot on his own too. And his mum would leave him for, I think the longest time she left him was about 2 weeks at one stage. And he went into a rehabilitation centre where they probably fed him the odd donkey. He wouldn't have known what it was, of course, but he wouldn't have had to do much killing. In fact, I don't think he did. He probably didn't do any killing. He's been tossed back into the wild here with his collar in an unfamiliar area. He's now killing impala, so he's learned to do it completely on his own. So, you know, I mean, there's still mysteries about leopards, despite the amount of time we spend with them, the enjoyment we get out of them. There's still quite a few mysteries as to how they get on and what doesn't make them go. Apparently Brent was told that I used the term Elizabeth for Karula. He gave a thumbs down, and then he fell out of the car. So they're just trying to resuscitate him now. Oh, Simon, many questions from you here. Good ones. Okay. The first, you want to know ostensibly how many leopards there are, including cubs, inside the Safari Life traversing area, and how big is the traversing area. Simon, I don't know where you're from in the world, and just a reminder to you all, please do tell us where you're from, because it's always nice to know. Simon, the total traversing area is 6,500 acres, which in hectares is, we're looking at 1,200 here, 850 odd at Arathusa, so that's 2,000 plus another 600 or so at Cheetah Plains, so that takes us to a total of roughly, 2,500 hectares. Now, that's 2,500 hectares. Within that area we have Karula. She is largely Djuma. Her territory is almost exactly the size of Djuma, so 1,200 hectares. And then there is Shadow. She is not completely within our traversing area, but we see her quite a lot. She goes quite a lot to the south of us, especially since the demise of another leopard called Quatile. So that's 2. Then there is Then there is Tundi. Tundi we see sometimes, but I really wouldn't call her part of our traversing area. There's Inkanyeni, who lives at Cheetah Plains, and then, I mean, those are largely the female leopards that we see. So those are the females. Then there's Tingana, the male, and there is the Anderson male, who I wouldn't put in our traversing area. There's also Mvula and Quarantine. So those are the two kind of males that are around. So we've got 3 males, and that's interesting because 2 of them are not territorial. We've got, we'll call it 3 females, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4 cubs as well. So that's, what is that, Chandra? 10 leopards within our traversing area, but there will be others that come in. So we had Shivambalana the other day on Cheetah Plains. He came in there. He's not always around our traversing area. We sometimes see Tandi, like I said. She's got new cubs now as well, so she might or might not be considered part of it. Nkanyeni's got 1 cub. She's just lost one. We don't know how. So that's basically it. About 10 in total. Alright, there are other people going to the leopard cub sighting now, so we're not going to go there again. For now, we're going to go and see what else we can find, and we'll just traverse around and see if we can't get a view of Karula. Or something else, maybe some elephants. I'd like to see some elephants. I saw many elephants today. Sorry, Nigel, the game drive radio is going crazy in my ear. Can you go again with that, Kirsten? Nigel in the United Kingdom. Oh, what's the count of consecutive days with cats? I don't know, but quite a few. I mean, we've done really well over the last little while. I think since Brent got back last week, we haven't had a day without cats. Let's go down this road. So, that would be... What's this about? That's a week exactly. It's exactly a week. And before that we had quite a few days. So I don't know, Nigel, but at least 10 or 12 days maybe. I was very lucky also when I got back from leave. I had about 8 days consecutively with cats. Nothing to do with me. Blind luck 90% of the time. But yeah, we've been very blessed. And of course, the more cubs you have, the more blessed you get, because the slightly less they move.